always been so around. I have been working a lot, my regular full-time job, and sleeping, and just trying to get through life. I still do not have an ideal setup for recording, but I have missed making ASMR videos and figured that, you know what, I just have to make it work. So if you hear any background noise, I apologize. I can't really help it because of the fact that I just don't have a place to really record. So life has been pretty crazy. I don't even remember what my last update video was. I have had some interesting things go on in my life, and with my family and stuff like that. So I'm just gonna try and throw out what I can remember and just kind of tell you a little bit about where I've been. This is also a little odd for me because I'm recording the audio separately from the video because my camera is dead since I haven't used it in so long and I don't know where the charger is at the moment. I was going to try to use my phone, but I couldn't really get a good angle, and so ultimately I just decided that I would record things separately. So this is quite strange for me to record the audio without actually doing anything else. So my in-laws still live with my husband and I. We're going on almost 5 years that they've lived here, but we are actively working to get them a place of their own, so that way my husband and I can finally have our house to ourselves. And so hopefully that goes okay. My mother-in-law had surgery back in November, and then my father-in-law had surgery in February for 2 different things. And so that's been, we've had to navigate that. And my mother-in-law has developed early signs of dementia, which has been another thing to navigate. My grandmother has dementia, and it is a really horrible thing to watch somebody go through. My grandma doesn't always remember who I am or my mom is, which sucks. I mean, it really sucks, but it is what it is, so. But to see my mother-in-law go through the very early signs of it is also kind of, well, it sucks too, but also I'm already familiar with dealing with people who have dementia, and my husband has never had to deal with it before, so it's been interesting to watch him try to figure out how to deal with that. Let's see what else. My stepdad, in December, very early December, went to the hospital because he wasn't feeling well, and we knew a good reason why So basically what ended up happening is we went to one hospital, and they were not really doing a very good job of giving him the right dosage of medication. And then they finally determined that they just didn't have the means to treat him for how serious of an issue it was. So he was transferred to another hospital in town, and he was placed in the ICU. And they, again, determined that he was going through heart failure, and they were talking about inputting oh gosh, I can't remember what it's called. It's a specific type of pump that goes in the left side, I believe. And they were talking about doing that. Well, he ended up, so I live in the Des Moines area. I'm from Des Moines, Iowa. And they ended up transferring him again to the University of Iowa Hospital, which is a really, really well-known medical hospital, university, however the heck you want to say it. He had been there before when he had experienced some issues with his heart, years ago, like a decade ago. So he was already familiar with, like, their thoroughness, we'll say. So, like 2 days before Christmas, he was transferred to the University of Iowa. He thought he was going to get to go for a helicopter ride. He did not. He rode by ambulance for about 2 hours to be transferred, but it worked out. And then on Christmas Day, my mom and I went to Iowa City to visit him, and he looked far worse than I'd ever seen him, and he was on dialysis and all kinds of machines and just a whole bunch of stuff, and he wasn't really talking a whole lot. He was uncomfortable, and just, I mean, you're going through heart failure, and it's pretty crazy. And so they did put a pump in the left side, but the way that I explained it to people was like there were 3-tier levels of pumps. So they had put in level 1, and then they put in, I don't know, several days later, or however long, they then put in level 2 pump. They replaced the first one with this level 2 pump. Then they put in a pump on his right side. So he had a pump on either side of his heart, and that was the only thing keeping him alive. I mean, obviously along with all the medications and things like that, but without those pumps, his heart would not have done anything, really. So he was, so I had seen him on Christmas Day, and then it had been a little bit since I had seen him, but, I kept checking and seeing how things were going and making sure he was doing okay. And apparently the hospital staff had said that they'd never seen anybody who had 2 pumps in their heart still be able to get up and walk around. Like, they would have him get up and do laps around the ICU area. And yeah, it was really crazy, and it wasn't long after all of that they put him on the transplant list. And within a few days, I think it was, I don't know, everything is a blur. I've written this all down because I had started a GoFundMe page for them, and that's a whole other story, but I can't remember the timeline hardly anymore, but sometime around New Year's, he too much away. We don't know that much about the person. You have to wait about a year before you get any more information. All we know is that the person wasn't gone yet, and the family was basically finalizing their plans, and because of that, he wasn't going to have surgery for another like day and a half. And it is, I'm not even the one that had a heart transplant, but to think that, it's hard to kind of grapple with the idea that somebody had to die in order for him to live. We are very, very, very grateful to that family that had to make an incredibly hard decision, because it meant that my stepdad was able to live. And it is not lost on us the sacrifice that had to happen in order for him to still be here. And the surgery went well. In fact, they were saying that the surgery could take anywhere from 8 to 10 hours. And it was on the lower end of 8, almost like less than 8 hours, I think it was. And because he'd never had any major surgeries or anything before, he didn't have any scar tissue, so it made the surgery go very quickly and seamlessly. And I had seen him before the surgery, a few days before the surgery, before we knew he was going to be getting a heart. And then my mom and I went and saw him the day after the surgery, and it was like no time had passed. It was as if he had never even had a heart transplant. I mean, he was still talking, and obviously he just had a major surgery, and there were things that he was feeling a little nauseous and couldn't really stand up just yet because his blood pressure would drop and things like that. So there was some things, but even him sitting in his bed, it was like he was talking and everything as if nothing had happened, and it was just wild. And after that, I think he was in the hospital for maybe 2 more weeks and then was released, which is mind-blowing to me. Science is amazing that we can actually accomplish something like that, and now he's got a brand new heart, and it's functioning. He had to go to weekly appointments, and now they're slowing them down, and he has to be on medication, of course, for the rest of his life in order to keep the heart from being rejected. But everything has gone really, really, really well for him, and he has been doing therapy, like cardiotherapy. He also had to do some physical therapy for his leg because he had to have a blood clot removed right before he was placed on the list, and his leg's been kind of struggling with one of the muscles. So, but he's doing really, really well, and he's walking around, and he's driving again, and it's just insane to me that, from where he was just early December to now it's just mind-blowing to me. Unfortunately, in that process, he owns his own business, with sepsis, also all of the acid and everything. She ended up having what they call wet brain. And they removed what they could, but they had to stop, otherwise she would have died on the table. And then basically after all of that, there was just so much damage that was done to her body that there was nothing that they could really do. And so my husband and I met at the hospital to go and see her. She was not conscious, but obviously we wanted to go and see her. And it was really hard to see her in the hospital. But I think the hardest part of everything was seeing my uncle be completely beside himself and just kind of falling apart over the situation. They didn't have any kids together. They have a very large house and a dog, and they were each other's world. And they'd been married for almost 40 years. And my uncle was put in the position of determining if or when they would need to take her off of life support. And he said that he couldn't live with himself to do that. And I think he was holding out for a miracle to happen, because he never made a decision that day. Mind you, they'd had a meeting with the doctors and everything. They knew that there was no real coming back from what had happened, but he obviously was kind of in denial a little bit about that, and was just really hoping that she would be able to turn around and be okay. And unfortunately, by the next morning, they said that the medication that she was on was not only not helping, but was actually deteriorating the inside of her body and making things worse. And that was kind of the last thing that my uncle needed to hear in order for him to say, okay, there's no need to make her suffer or, prolong this any longer than need be. So, on, I believe it was March 14th at noon, they took her off of life support, and she never woke up and passed peacefully about an hour and a half later, and my mom was there along with some of her other family. And it's been really weird. Obviously we've had the funeral and all this stuff, but I wasn't like super close with my aunt and uncle. I mean, I've known them, my entire life, of course, and I would see them for holidays and different things, but it was like, she was always just a presence in the background. It was like, even if I didn't see my aunt and uncle, I just knew that they were around. They were doing things, they were living life, and she was always there, and now she's not. And I'm still processing that she's not here anymore. Despite the fact that we were not super close, I still tend to get quite emotional about the fact that she's gone, just because I do have a lot of memories with her, which I know I'm not like, it's not, I'm trying to explain myself or anything. It's more of just the grief process and like how I feel, what I'm going through. was really difficult for me for a long time dealing with all this stuff happening that I ended up missing work for a while. And luckily my boss was and is very, very understanding and, has been very lenient with me and knew the situation of what was going on, that if I needed to leave or whatever, which has been very, very helpful. But I ended up having to so I was already on medication for anxiety, which is like the best decision I ever made, let me tell you, right off the bat. But then I ended up adding an additional medication to kind of help with trying to feel more motivated and feel less depressed. And I feel like it's been really helpful. And I think that's also partially why I'm so adamant about trying to start recording videos again, because I've missed it and I keep using these excuses for why I can't, and I need to stop and just do it. So I'm not going to promise a regular schedule because I don't think that will really be possible, but I want to hopefully start recording and posting a little more frequently than I have been. The only thing that I don't look forward to is editing. Editing is very tedious and time consuming, but I am not in a position to hire somebody. So I have to just kind of deal with it and get through it. Maybe one day I'll get to a point where I feel like I can hire somebody, but for right now, I'm gonna have to, first world problems, suffer through editing my own video, or videos. But, I'm trying to think if there's anything else that's really been going on. One of my childhood cats we had to put to sleep. Unfortunately, she was also very, very old. So that sucked too. Again, really hurts when it comes to the animals also. And my husband and I are going to marriage counseling, which I think is just a good idea in general, whether you are going through stuff or not. It's not unhelpful for us, but it's kind of made things more clear, I guess. And I'm still going to regular therapy. He's going to therapy as well as EMDR therapy, and he just started the EMDR therapy. He's also talking about maybe going to Japan for a year, which we'll see, maybe. So there's just a lot of things kind of going on all at the same time, and it's a lot. And I'm just kind of trying to get through each day, and I've taken a few days off of work, so I'm hoping to get some stuff done around the house and trying not to put too much pressure on myself to get stuff done. So I'm really just focused on getting one thing done each day, and that I would be okay with, so that way I'm not like stressing myself out or making myself feel like crap because I didn't get all the things done that I wanted to. But I also know that if I can get one thing done, a lot of times I will continue to do stuff, so then I do get more stuff done. But I'm just trying not to put that kind of pressure on myself. I think other than that, that's most of my life updates, I think. So First of all, there's no way